Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are doing a book review on Phil Jackson's 11 Rings. Phil Jackson is the championship winning coach of both the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers, especially during that time where they were winning championships back to back to back. He won 6 championships with the Chicago Bulls, and then he got the other 5 with the LA Lakers, which I really enjoyed reading this book. There was so much to learn about leadership. There was so much to learn about emotional intelligence and how they weren't calling it that back then, but that's exactly how I refer to it and how other people refer to it today. So I'm going to jump into what were some takeaways that I took from it in this season. I'm sure when I read the book in the future sometime, I may feel a little bit differently. But for today, I have my notes. So let's get into it. So first things first is I have been really deep in thinking about self-leadership and agency and what that looks like and how leadership is truly everywhere, even when we don't call it leadership. So many times I believe when people think about leadership, they think about the person who is running the ship literally, but there are many ships to be ran in different areas of your life. So you need to be the leader of yourself, right? If you are a parent, instead of reading those parent books, this may be a hot take, right? Instead of reading the parent books, I would look towards reading leadership books. Leadership is really everywhere, and it really starts with you. And how you operate is how others will follow. What I thought was so unique about Phil's leadership is his connection to wanting to look at different areas of his life of growth and what that means for him spiritually and also religiously, and how he was able to incorporate his own journey into the teams that he was working with. So he brought in and taught them about Zen meditation. He called the video room the tribal room. There were these things that he was doing that was unique to himself as a person that was then reflected, right, in what he did with his team that was very unique to who he was as a person. And I really believe that that allowed him to show up authentically, right, in his own leadership style that they either got or they didn't, but they knew that it was unique to Phil. And I will say, in that uniqueness, him being able to bring in that meditation, I believe it worked out so well for those men. Meditation is something that I personally love doing. I'm an advocate for meditation, for becoming one with yourself, with getting familiar with yourself and your inner voice and quieting your mind. And that was something that he knew that he needed. And then he shared that practice with his teams. And that is a through line that you will see throughout his leadership. His leadership is this Zen and this mindfulness that I believe really played a factor in the way that players were able to show up, especially during the moments that were so stressful and really when they were in a pressure cooker. So that's number one. Leadership is everywhere, and understanding how you lead and what your leadership style is and how that can show up. Number two, your EQ needs to match your IQ. A lot of people, right? They think knowing the information and being the most knowledgeable in the room and being the best in the room has to do with having the highest IQ. But what was so interesting that Phil talked about during the time when the Bulls were looking to win another championship was how Michael Jordan's leadership style had to change, and he really had to start listening and understanding and being mindful of these people that he called his teammates and understanding that they had different needs. And that isn't about your IQ, that's about your EQ. What does your emotional intelligence look like, and how do you understand what other people communicate like? Because he was very clear, right, that his relationship with Scottie Pippen, how he had to lead Scottie Pippen was literally whatever I did, Scottie was going to do. So if I took a day off, Scottie's going to take a day off. So there's no day offs around here because Scottie literally mirrored Michael. While with Dennis Rodman, he did not yell at that man. It wasn't about what Michael was doing. It was about, how do I communicate with him? How do I step into his world? And when I saw that in the book, I was like, yeah, because that's what it's really about. As a leader, you have to be able to understand, this is my vision. This is where I want us to go forth, right? How do I communicate that to each and every person who is on this team? And how do I communicate it in a way that they understand? How can I communicate it in a way that makes them say, hey, I want to go on this journey with you. And I know exactly where we are going, and I know exactly which role I'm going to play, which literally goes into the third topic that I have written down, which is reinvention, vision, identity, and systems. Systems work everywhere. Systems work whether you're in a family. Systems work whether you are on a team. Systems work whether you are in corporate. Systems work whether you are in community. One line that I absolutely loved, right, was the road to freedom is a beautiful system. And how do we build systems? Well, it comes from first understanding what is our goal, what is our vision. And once we understand our goal and we understand our vision, then we can move to what is our identity? What is our identity as a team? I loved how when Michael Jordan left the Bulls and went on to go play baseball for a moment, Phil was aware enough of his team and he understood that there was an identity shift that happened when there is no longer Michael Jordan on the team. And we need to figure out who we are without Michael. What do the Bulls look like without Michael Jordan? And his awareness, right, it not only speaks to his IQ, but also his EQ. Of I need to make sure that my team feels supported and they have the resources that they need to thrive. And the number one thing that we have to do is get away from being the Bulls and Michael Jordan to who we are right now. And how can we still accomplish that goal? How do we still have that vision of moving forward, right? Of winning a championship. And what role does everybody play? And once we get clear on those different things, then we can work the system with everybody understanding their role and being very clear on what it is that they have to do. Systems are underrated, but systems are one of those things where once you get the system going, you don't have to think about it. You just have to work the system because the thinking processes are already within there. And I absolutely love systems. Of course, I use systems, right, in my day-to-day with clients. And having a system just allows you to not have to always think on your feet and to know even when you're having an off day, what you can always lean on is the system and know that it's going to work. Phil had a system, and I'm getting ahead of myself again, but Phil had a system. And because he had a system, he just needed the right players to work the system. But the system was already in place. And because he had a system, it allowed him to not only thrive in Chicago, but also in LA when he decided to. So, that's a nugget right there. Another thing that I absolutely enjoyed about this book, and which was really a call out, was greatness and discipline go hand in hand. He talked about Michael Jordan, which is arguably one of the best basketball players to ever play the sport. He also talked about Kobe Bryant. Can you imagine literally coaching arguably two of the best players to ever play basketball? Now, as he talked about them, they're two totally different people. They move differently and also they move the same. Michael Jordan was willing to put in the work. Kobe Bryant willing to put in the work. And when you're playing with them, you have to raise your level of play, even in practice, even to be their teammate. Because they go so much harder than everyone else. And they just don't go hard once a week, every single day. They are so disciplined. They are so focused on their goal. And so if you want to be great, you have to be willing to put in more work than other people. I remember Carmelo Anthony being on a podcast talking about, this was during the Olympics, I believe, and he was talking about how Kobe Bryant was waking up at the crack of dawn before they had to go and already do workouts and practices to get in an early workout. People were invited. LeBron showed up. D-Wade showed up. Carmelo Anthony was very clear on who he was. He said, I'm not getting up. I'm already at the Olympics. I'm already doing what I'm doing. I'm not putting in that extra work. Y'all can do whatever y'all want to do. That isn't for me. And I think that's what people really have to understand, especially as we are in this world where it seems like greatness and the gold star and success can happen overnight. Then you have to realize people have been putting in work for the past 10 years to get to where they are. Things do not happen overnight. They are not an overnight success. When I tell you 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, Kobe did not win his first championship until 7 years within the league. Now, there are many different factors. Number one, I think the factor is he didn't have the right coach. Phil Jackson was the coach to put into the system that is needed for them to win. Also, Kobe had to learn some things about what it really means to win a championship and how really there is no egos that can be at the forefront when you're winning a championship on a team sport. Leave your ego at the door. Because if you want to play one person ball, then you're not making it. You're not winning a ring. Which leads us into the next point that I have, which is it really made me think about one of my favorite African proverbs, which is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, arguably one of the best, some of the best, right, players to ever play the game. Argue with your mom or somebody else. I'm not arguing y'all with that. It's not that deep for me. But what is a little bit deeper for me is understanding that even though these players were as great as they could be, they could not win a championship without a team. Phil made that very clear. The type of ball that we play, it's ball where no one is bigger than the program. You may be an important piece to the program, but you are not bigger than the program. And so wherever you are right now is understanding that you need a team to elevate you. You need a team to get you to the next level, whether that is a mindset coach, whether that's a stylist, whether that is a business coach, whatever that may look like. Who is on your team that is helping you reach the next level, because you can't do it all on your own. You can't do it all on your own. Because if you attempt to do it all on your own, there will be other people who have teams, who have systems in place, who have people who are helping them. They get to go further because they don't have to do it all on their own. They don't have to carry all the weight on their own. And carrying all the weight gets really heavy. They were dealing with injuries. Kobe was injured. Michael was injured. You cannot carry the team on your back by yourself. And if it's only you, it's so easy to lock you down on defense if it's only you carrying the team. There are so many nuggets, right, within this book that we can literally apply to everyday life, that we can apply to business, that we can apply to community and family, because we need each other to go far. You want to be known as the player who makes the most points? Okay. You want to be the player that won championships back to back? It takes people. It takes people. And this is my last takeaway. There were literally so many nuggets, but this is my last takeaway, which is greatness leaves clues. Phil Jackson is absolutely amazing. Arguably one of the best coaches to ever coach basketball. He has left clues within this book. I believe he's left clues for any leader that is part of a team that wants to understand, what do I need to do to put my team on the trajectory of winning a championship, whatever that may look like for you all. And as success leaves clues, there's also an opportunity to study success. There's also an opportunity to go even deeper and ask yourself, where did they learn from? I am that person where I want to know who helped you to be great. For Phil Jackson, it was his coach, Red. And if Red was alive, I would want to sit down with Red and say, how did you come up with these things? Because Phil learned it from you. I want to know either where you learned it from or what was your thinking pattern to get here. Success leaves clues. Find a person who is doing what it is that you want to do and study them and pull out what makes them great. And do it again and again and again until you get the patterns that you need, link them together and say, okay, this is the game plan. This is what I have to have. This is what I need to believe. These are the values that I need to have. These are the practices that need to be put in place. This is the system that I need to be working. And so those are my thoughts about 11 Rings. It was a great book, an absolute great read that I believe you can give to any leader that is leading a team, whether they are a basketball coach or a corporate leader or a parent. You can get the nuggets. If you've ever read 11 Rings, let me know what your takeaways are. But thank you for joining me, and until next time, be limitless.